Hi, I'm Jilly Van Dusen, and welcome to Get Real with Jill. Yes, today is Thursday, May 15th, and welcome. I so appreciate you joining the live Get Real with Jill show. And today we are going to be talking about real estate reality check. So, thank you so much for tuning in. You can see me here on Facebook Live. You can see me on my at Spotify podcast, which that will air this episode later, and YouTube. And the reason why I'm doing the Get Real with Jill show, it's not just about real estate. It actually started like that in April of 2020, and then it evolved. We have basic, I shouldn't say basic. The whole point of the Get Real with Jill show is to bring community together, recognize and have leaders in our community on the show. There are people in our own community, it can be your next door neighbor, who make such a difference and have a purpose in this world and life. And I want to bring that attention to you so that you can see the different makers right here in our community. We talk about health, we talk about fitness, and we also have business owners. And these could be everyday people. And really, we are everyday people, right? If we're living and we're breathing, we are everyday people. So that is what the Get Real with Jill show is. And so, yes, sometimes I'll bring in real estate. Why? Because, yes, I am a realtor. Not just on the Get Real with Jill show, but actually live every single day. My career that I love is real estate. So why not today talk? Oh, that's backwards. Why not today talk about? I think they might all be backwards. Why not today talk about Get Real with Jill's real estate checkup? But I will have to tell you, please tune in and stay tuned because June is National Friends Month. And yesterday we pre recorded with my besties, Sherry and Elizabeth. So that's going to be really fun to celebrate National Friendship Month. And then June 8th is Bestie Day. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. So I think what's important here with real estate is I'm going to have a challenge for you. So we're going to talk about website values such as Zillow and Redfin. If you go on those to take a look at the value of your home. If you have a roof over your head, please make sure you listen in. If you own a home, listen in because this is very important to see where your investment is right now. And if you're thinking of buying or selling, good time to listen in and also share too. And if your home's sitting on the market, and just sitting and sitting and sitting and no offers, I can tell you what's going on. So definitely stay tuned. And it's probably not your realtor. All right. Just a little disclaimer there. So we're going to talk about website values and then who the buyer is for your home and how do we determine that? Because you just don't put out a sign. There's so many marketing things to do. We're going to have some stats, and then I'm going to have a little bit of a weekend challenge for you, which I think you'll be like, oh, yeah, this is different. So hold up for that challenge. All right, so let's get started. And I think this is really important too for sellers. So let's take a look at the website values, whether it's Zillow or Redfin. I am in multiple mastermind type groups with all different realtors from different brokerages. So not just guide. Trust me, we have just a very close connection. We all want the best for our clients. And so we're constantly talking about the real estate market. And this morning, I was talking to a very good friend of mine from Sotheby's, Alex, in the Bay Area, and how their market has changed by 10 to 15%. And right now, it's kind of back at the 10% decline. And so what happens? Once it starts there, we see it here. So how can we here be upfront about it, especially if we want to put our house on the market? So here's what I see, and Alex and I had talked about this too. People go in and they look at their home value on Zillow and Redfin. Guys, that is a great tool to have. It really is. Zillow and Redfin do not determine the value of your home. Who can, in comments, tell me who determines the value of your home? Who determines the value of the home is the buyer of your house and what they're going to pay for it. So I often hear, and I want you to think about this because I hear this and I'm actually going through this right now. But Zillow said my home is worth XYZ, so we need to list it at XYZ. So you got to start asking some questions about that. So Zillow, the Zillow says, well, my house is worth this. Would you and I be having that same conversation if I knew your value was here for the house, but Zillow said it's down here? Probably not, right? So Zillow and sometimes Zillow and Redfin don't even match. And Zillow's oftentimes like about 40%, but here's the difference. Let's say you want to go and say, okay, I'm in Zillow. This is how much my house is worth. I want to list it that way. I'm going to tell you exactly how real estate professionals and appraisers recommend the value of your home. It is not Zillow, it is not Redfin, but here's how Zillow and Redfin work. They are based on algorithms. So it is a kind of a fun tool to watch and look at and great to see what's on the market, though they do not determine the true value of your home. Let's say, for example, that you put in a new pool and Zillow doesn't know that. Let's say you have owned solar versus the neighbor who has leased solar. Let's say your neighbor has a brand new HVAC and you don't, or you need a new roof. So Zillow doesn't take those into consideration, or your lot is the premium lot. Us as realtors and us and appraisers, we use a system called MLS. So I really want to encourage you guys. This is not a lecture. This is more of an education on how the value of your home is determined. And why am I even pushing on this? I will tell you exactly why. Because homes are sitting on the market right now. So I'm going to challenge you this weekend because we are seeing it every day and I'm getting calls all the time now. I have like 4 or 5 listings coming up and the market's going to be saturated right now. So I'm going to talk to you too as a buyer on the buying side, an opportunity for you. But let's start with the listing side because you can't buy if a seller hasn't listed their home. So if you are thinking of listing and you're talking to your realtor, I encourage you to take a look with the data that your realtor provides at how they determine your market value for your home. So your challenge as you are driving around this weekend, taking your kids to sports, going to the grocery store, you are going to notice how many open house signs are around now. I remember even just like 6 months ago, there weren't that many open house signs. And then these last couple of months, even though it's spring and that's natural just to have that progression of the season, but really the listings that are going on the market right now and all the open house signs, that'll be your challenge. You'll start seeing it and you'll compare to maybe a few months ago where it's like, oh yeah, there weren't that many open houses. So, so I want to make sure too that if you're looking at Zillow and Redfin, again, it is a good tool, but they don't know if you have a new HVAC, if you need a new roof, and they're just comparing more like square footage, like for like homes around your area. And guess what? If your next door neighbor home forecloses and the bank buys it back, let's say they owe 350, the bank buys it back for 350, whatever that number is, and you're in an $800,000-$900,000 community. Well, Zillow doesn't know it's going into foreclosure. Zillow doesn't know all of that. Zillow, again, bases it on an algorithm. And guess what that just did? That just lowered the value of your home. Well, we don't look at it that way. We look at MLS because we look at the solds and look for like of your home, not because the bank got that next door neighbor's house in foreclosure, took it back. That we don't count. All right. So, and here's what I hear a lot too when I'm out there, and so do other agents. This isn't just me, Jill Van Dusen. It's, well, the neighbor down the street, I know that they don't have as like nice upgrades as us, and they've listed it for 900. Well, when I'm coming in to tell my clients, well, your house is worth like 850. It doesn't matter what a house is listed for. That house that might be in your neighborhood, that's just competition. If they can get that, that's great. And it goes to sold, and then we calculate it into the value, the equation of your home. You look at active properties as your competition. And it's more just kind of like an education to people, because not this is real estate. This is what I do every day. And people are like, well, I bought and sold 20, 30 years ago. That's great. And I probably, yeah, I guess I don't even know if I had a cell phone. No, I probably did have a cell phone. Things are different. Buyers have changed. Everybody has changed. So my whole point there is active listings is what your competition is. So if your house is really worth the value of 850 and I provide the comps at 850, but your neighbor's selling it for 900, put your house at the 850 value, and I promise you, you're going to get the showings, you're going to get people in, and you're probably going to get an offer where that house is just going to tick tock, and sit, and go, oh, how could they price their house too low and it sold? Well, they priced their house too high originally and it hasn't sold. Does that make sense? I hope so. And if you guys have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put it in the comment section. And I appreciate you guys looking. And I just dropped my card, but I think I'm okay there. All right. So here's what realtors do. We look at the multiple listing service. That's the tool that we use. And so do appraisers. So we are going to do our best in how, so when you meet with your realtor, they will do a complete comparable market analysis and they will make adjustments. So let's say there's a house down the street that's a neighbor, they don't have the prime lot, and they just sold their house for 800. So let's add in the prime lot that you have. They didn't have a pool. We need to make an adjustment upward for a pool. They have a 3-car garage, you have a 2-car garage, so we make an adjustment downward. So there's all these adjustments and all these variables involved. Square footage. Well, we do like to do a range about 200 down, 200 up, because that's then you create an average square foot. If you go more than that, it's really, then you really have to make adjustments for that square footage too, and that can make $30,000 to $50,000 adjustment. So be very careful of the homes that you're telling your realtor, well, that house down the street, single story 3-2, that house sold for XYZ. Yes. And that house is 400 square foot more than your house. So we're going to be, if we do an average square foot and we take it off that much square footage, your house is really going to be worth a lot lower. So remember, we have a specific calculation that we use, and we want to make sure that we're valuing it as if an appraiser is going to do the same thing when you're in contract and they need to appraise the house so that the buyer's loan goes through. All right. Let's see. Oh, and I think it's important too, because Redfin and Zillow, if you are looking at those, a lot of people will take like the quarter and go, oh, the first quarter was this. Well, we're kind of feeling some of the heat on the second quarter, and that's because a lot of things have changed. The stock market had changed. People are a little bit nervous now, so that's why things are sitting on the market. Buyers are kind of at a standstill, and we definitely need to see that momentum. And remember, now you're going to have a lot more competition. Okay, so please think about what your realtor says. They're not just here to just throw you fluff. They are here to make sure that your house sells and not sit. And here's what cracks me up too is a lot of people say, well, I don't really have to sell. Most people do not have to sell their home. Hey, George, thank you so much for joining. I so appreciate you. And people don't have to sell their home. They want to sell their home. I mean, think about it. When you bought the house that you're in now, did you have to buy it? No. Did you have to sell your previous house? Yes, to buy this house. So people usually, most people just want to. They're downsizing. They don't want the big house anymore. They don't want to take care of the pool. They're retiring, so they want to go into an active adult community. These are not have tos. These are want to. So it is interesting when people say, well, I don't have to sell. Well, putting your home on the market is also an investment. It's investment for all. So if you want to just sit and wait, then why don't you just wait until you want to really sell it? Because otherwise, the longer a house sits on the market is not good, and people just bypass it, and then it gets old. But if you really want to sell it, get the product ready and price it at market value, and it'll sell. Because I promise you, we live in a great community. Placer County is a very sought out area, and people want to move here, and people are moving here. The other thing that is important is when you go to when you go to sell your home, it's important to get the product ready. Just like, and I know have used this analogy before, when you go and bring your used car to the dealership to get money for it, and they give you the money for it, they don't just bring it back out and slap 3 to 5 thousand more dollars. I don't know how much more money. No, they get that product ready and they make it beautiful when you come back going, oh man, I shouldn't have sold my car. So you really want to put you want to get your home and get a product that is going to give you the most equity of your home. If you're like, you know what, I just want to sell it, I don't want to do anything, well, then know that number that your realtor is going to share with you is going to be lower than the number that you think it is, because a lot of people don't want to pick up your mess. Seriously, nobody wants to pick up projects. And you might be, well, this was a project when I bought it. Absolutely, this was a project 20, 30 years ago. Right. But remember, who is the buyer of your home today, and what is those buyers' needs? So, for example, um, we'll take a trainer. So, Coca Cola has to know who their buyer is. Coca Cola is not going to spend their time and their money to market to a gym trainer. I will tell you, my gym trainer is not going to go and buy Coca Cola. No, he's going to buy different brands to keep muscle strength, protein. So it's the same thing. You're selling a home. Who is your buyer? And your realtor is going to help you know that who that buyer is. And I do that all the time. I'll look and say, okay, in this demographics, this price range, this floor plan, this is who the buyer is that is buying your home. Um, and the other thing that I recommend, and we've been doing this for years, get your inspections done up front, please. It could be up to a $1,200 investment, though. Why would you want to put your home on the market, not know what's wrong with it, get into contract, and then the buyer tells you everything that's wrong with your home? And not only does it cost you, the buyer that was super excited about your home, they may have buyer's remorse and go, I'm out. Or it can cost you thousands of dollars because the buyer's like, oh, I'm not buying the home for this. Look at this home inspection. So I really encourage, it's like about a $1,200 investment to get all the list of inspections done. That is a very small investment to know and to protect your equity in your home so that you can have it ready for the buyer. And today, even as a realtor, when I'm showing homes, I want to see if my client likes that house. I want to see all those disclosures now. And what I communicate to my clients is, here's all the inspections. Here's what's been worked on. Here's what's not been worked on. So do know these are the things you're going to need to do. So let's make the offer based on what the market value is and knowing these are the different things that you have to do to the house. And it just it just provides so much clarity so that when the parties agree, then they just move on and we get to the end. We get to close of escrow date, give the keys, seller moves on, everybody's happy. As realtors, we don't just sit and put our picture on the sign and hope that the house gets sold. That is not real estate at all. And remember, we do live in the state of California. Paperwork is this thick. All right. So we talked about who is the buyer of your home. And another way to look at when you take the product of your home, because you fell in love with your home, you loved the floor plan, it met your needs at that time. You may have been a growing family and you bought it because you had 3 or 4 kids. Well, who is the buyer today in that price range for your home? And I often encourage my clients, go to new home builds, go to model homes to see, they base model home builders based on what is the need for a buyer today. And it doesn't have to be just a first time home buyer. People will do move ups to new home builds too. And look at the floor plans, because the way they design the floor plan, I'm not saying look at the backyard because their backyards are really small. Look at the floor plan. Look at the updates. That is what people today want. So if you go back to the late 80s, early 90s, when Stanford Ranch just became a community in Rockland, the tri-level, everybody was building the tri-level. Okay, everybody wanted the tri-level. I remember I loved the tri-level. The tri-level is so challenging to sell today. It is. Because if you go to the new home build, everybody wants an open concept. If you are selling your tri-level and you're looking at a home to buy, whether it's new or resale, you're probably looking at an open floor plan. Most people today want an open floor plan. The other thing is when you are determining who your buyer is, you want to understand the age, the generation of that buyer, because every generation is different. And I hear this a lot when a home is older and has a lot of projects, they're like, we'll just sell it as is. I know it's going to be a first time home buyer because that's the price range. Well, first time home buyers, that generation, they want it turnkey. Yep. I mean, are you guys agreeing with me out there, parents of my age? The younger generation, they want it turnkey. Even though they might come into Rockland and go, oh, I can get a house under 600 in Rockland, and they walk into it and go, oh, this could be 30 to 60. Oh, look at those old windows. First time, so that would be a price range around the 600 or less is a first time home buyer. So if you're in Rockland and you're in that range and first time home buyer comes in, a first time home buyer that we have seen, they have great jobs, two incomes. So they could afford the higher monthly mortgage. What they don't have is big savings. So a first time home buyer can get into 3.5, 10%. I mean, they can get in as a minimum of 3.5%. Though some of them really want to save and do 10%, but it's still PMI insurance that they have to pay for. So they're walking in there going, we're not doing projects. No, because we want to be in Tahoe this weekend. And then there's like this big wine festival coming up. We don't want to spend our weekends there. You will get the far and few between. It's not to say that everybody is like that, but the majority of that generation is. That's not a bad thing at all. We just have different generations. For example, the generation that is my age, here's what we're thinking. So, back, let's say 20 years ago in the 55 and active community, so many of those people were one income earners. Let's just say, for example, the husband was working and then the wife stayed home. They moved into this beautiful active adult community. He retired, bam. That's 20, 25 years ago. That's a different generation. Um, that their focus was okay, we're probably going to live until maybe 80 and then this will be our last house. And they can retire. My generation is we are going to live a lot longer and I'm probably not retiring at 65 because Social Security is not going to, I'm not living off Social Security. So those people now coming into the 55 and active communities are different than the wants and needs from 25 years ago of those people coming into the active adult communities. So, they may have homes or they may have money to be able to take that project of a 25-year-old home and create a beautiful product and make it turnkey. But again, they are super cautious of how they want to spend their money as well because we live so much longer. They don't want to be a burden to their kids. So they are doing different things too to make sure that their kids do not have a financial burden with us living longer. So I hope that makes sense because my whole point there is just it's not to say, oh, today's generation of first time home buyers, they have different needs and wants. So I'm bringing in the active adult, my age, which was different than the ones 25 to 30 years ago that were my age. Times have changed, generations have changed, wants and needs have changed, energy efficiency has changed. We live longer. People tend to wait a little bit longer to get married. People may not have kids right away. So, all of this, you're like, well, what does this have to do with the sale of my home? I just want to sell it. It has a lot to do with it Because if you want to sell your home, know who the buyer is, get your product ready. I'm not saying you have to go and remodel, but if you have some big ticket items out there, you might need to really take into consideration doing those, unless you're okay with a buyer coming in at a much lower value. Because if you have to put in a new roof or a new HVAC system, those are big ticket items. And if you're like, well, why would I put in a roof when I'm moving out? It's fine. Don't put in a roof, but make sure you price it accordingly so that people will buy. Um, okay. All right. So, sorry, just got interrupted by a Facebook call. All right. So there we go there. So please. Oh, this is what I want to show you. I have a couple of stats. Let's look at stats. So we're going to take Rockland first. So Rockland, Roseville, Lincoln, Granite Bay, I publish stats every week. So I really want you to see how the market is shifting. And again, I encourage you to please work with your realtor so that your house is not sitting, and look at the data. There is factual data that can help support that the value that they are saying is your house is worth. So think about this. In Rockland, right now there's 140 active homes. That's a lot. I remember back in the day we had like 35 to 40, and I was like, there's nothing out there. Okay, so I'm just pulling the first 15 days of May. There's 140 active homes. So from zero to and what has closed? 25 closed. Okay, more than one a day. Out of those closed, 72% closed were in pending between 0 to 30 days. That's great. And guess what? They got over 1% of their asking price. That's awesome. Way to go. So they priced it right. Then the homes that sold from 31 to 60 days, 24% of those got 2% less. And then guess what? If you go over 60 days, you're going to get 3% less. It's just going to go on and on and on. So you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And then in Roseville, 359 active homes. I'm talking single family resident homes, and some of them, single family resident, there's 191 pending, but 359, 56 closed, so more than 2 a day. Or no, 30. Yeah, more than 2 a day. So 71% sold just under value. So like, they almost got 100% list price. Way to go. Just slightly undervalued. 31 to 60 days, over 2% less than what they had it listed at. And then 61 to 90 days that closed. That was a big jump, 7% under. So if the whole goal here is just listed at market value, because there are buyers out there. Don't have it sit and chase the market down. Price it right and get the competition going so that the buyers want to push it up. Price, and they're like, well, we want room to negotiate. Negotiate what? Because there's no offers. What are you going to negotiate? This is such a hot topic, so I know I sound like, but it literally is. It's people want to leave room to negotiate, though they don't have an offer because their house is priced too high. And if you're like, well, if we price it at market value, there's no room to negotiate. Well, if you price it, it's probably going to go higher than market value, most likely. And if you get it at list price, if you get it lower than list price, don't take the offer. But at least you had something, and it's going to help determine what a buyer's going to buy your home for. So that's a wake-up call to you guys, is what kind of offers are you getting in? Because the market, you might be saying, well, the market is saying this, which is true. But then if buyers are coming in like this, then you might need to reconsider, because the market has adjusted and is adjusting. So make sure the numbers are today's numbers and not from January, February, and March. All right. So the other thing I think I wanted to say, I think that was it. All right, you guys. Sorry, it was a half hour long, but I appreciate you listening. So Rockland, Roseville, Lincoln, Granite Bay, any of those stats, or even if you're in Folsom, Sacramento, if you want specific stats on your community, let me know. Every Monday, I do have a Monday market update, and that can be on Instagram. You'll see it here on Facebook. But again, thank you so much for joining Get Real with Jill. I appreciate it, and I would love to see you back. If you know of somebody that has a listing that's just sitting, it's not always the realtor. um, we work really hard, and we don't just put a sign out. So have the conversation with your realtor, have them bring in the facts and the data, sit down together. If you're thinking of selling and you want a market analysis, I would love to sit down with you. You ultimately are the ones that are going to make the decision. Thank you, Michelle. I totally appreciate. Thank you. Um, so you ultimately will be the one making the decision. And if the agent doesn't want to take it, if they're like, well, I mean, because we invest too. We invest time, we invest money, professional photos, those are expensive, brochures. Let that realtor decide. But just get the facts and go with what you want to do, but get the facts. And people who are looking to buy, you guys, stop waiting. I can't tell you how many people at 3% were like, well, let's wait for the interest rate to go down. How's that going? So the interest rate may just be what it is. It may never go down. We don't know. We don't know until it happens. So don't sit and wait. Invest in yourself, invest in your future. Because again, if you are renting, you are paying 100% interest. So for people who are renting, thinking that they can't afford to buy, I promise. Oh, thank you. Love that, Michelle. Thank you. Um, so I promise, if you are renting and you think you can't buy, please give me a call, because let's sit down and put a plan together. You might be surprised. My son and his fiance, now wife, we met on with our lender January 28th to put a plan together. They were in their new home, not brand new home, beautiful resale home, on February 14th. Literally, January 28th is when we met with the lender. And Kyle and Alyssa, they didn't know, are they going to be able to buy? Or that was just, they were renting, putting money towards rent. February 14th in a home. That is such a short amount of time. And I think there's so many people that are first time homebuyers that don't realize these opportunities are out there for you. And then first time homebuyers are like, that is a really high interest rate. Well, don't you think paying rent, that's 100% interest? And guess who that goes to? That goes to the landlord for your landlord's future and your landlord's retirement. So you guys, please call me. Don't hesitate. Those dreams come true. I work with first-time home buyers all the time. Look at my Google reviews. It's an American dream. We are so blessed, and you get a tax write-off. So if you're thinking of buying your first-time home buyer, contact me, because this is such a fun journey to go through together. And if you're thinking of listing your home and you want a competitive market analysis, I'd be more than happy to help. Thank you so much for tuning in on Get Real with Jill, and we have some great special guests coming in, so please watch for that. If you want to get on my email list, just DM me or call me at 916-765-5488. I so appreciate you, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to talk about today's real estate market and having the Get Real with Jill show out there. Please again, follow me on Instagram, check out Spotify podcast, and like me and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you guys, have a great day, have a great weekend, and be blessed, because God gave us this day, and today's day is to live His purpose, not our own purpose, but His purpose. And remember, your smile will make a difference in somebody else's life. You may think you're having a bad day. We don't know what they're having. And their smile back at you will so make a difference in your life. Trust me, I'm going to test you and challenge you on that. And then remember, take a look at open houses this weekend. There's a lot out there. And then look at the inventory and compare. Wow, this house is asking for that. Whoa, look at this house. And they've done that. That's kind of a fun game too. All right, you guys, be blessed. Have a great day and be safe.